Hi there, welcome to this episode on Microsoft Fabric. In this episode, I'm going to dive into one of the most powerful features in Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse, which is Materialized Lake Views, or we can call them MLVs. So let's understand what is Materialized Lake Views. It is basically a persistent queryable object that stores the results of a single query physically in the lakehouse. Unlike a normal view that executes query every time you process it, an MLV stores the computer results and keeps them up to date automatically, and they are part of the lakehouse, and we can query them using SQL endpoints, Power BI, Notebook, or any connected analytical model. MLVs are declarative. This simply means we declare what you want, not how to process them, and then we declare all of this using the Spark SQL. I'm going to show you how we can architect this entire solution from the source files. We're going to create our workspace, lakehouse schema enabled, and we're going to load all the files. We're going to perform data processing using the Fabric notebook. We're going to follow the multi-op, that is the Medallion architecture, where we're going to have the bronze, silver, and the gold layers. And then we're going to create the materialized lake views in the silver schema of the Medallion architecture. We're going to create the business level aggregate, and we're going to create our lineage. And of course, we are going to visualize our data using the built-in Power BI reports. So if you're ready for this, let's get started. By the way, if you're new to this channel or you're ready to subscribe, please click on the subscribe button and toggle on the bell icon to be notified of new videos. Let's dive into the solution. Before we start architecting this end-to-end data engineering solution, let's take a look at the sales facts and dimensions files on my local drive. I'm going to come to this folder, and I've got this production underscore dataset folder that contains the fact sales dimension table for region, product, and customer. I'm going to come to this CSV file. I can see the columns of data in the fact sales.csv. Now, I want to quickly point out in column E, for instance, I've got the quantity. So I've got some cells that do not contain any value. So we're going to be handling all of these in the materialized lake view of the silver layer. And when I go to, for instance, column G or column H, I've got some channels that are missing. So you can see I've got some blanks and I've got some blanks. And of course, when I go to the last column, the promo code, we've got a bunch of empty cells. So we're going to be handling all of this, as I've mentioned, using the constraints in the materialized lake view. And let's see the dim product. So in this dim product, I've got this product ID, product name, category, price, and in stock. And for the customers, I've got the customer ID, first name, last name, email, and also I've got some blank cells in the email. So we're going to be handling all of that. And finally, for now, the dim region, I've got basically three columns: the region ID, region name, and the country. So having seen the content of the files, we can go ahead and create our Fabric Workspace and our Lakehouse and give it a name. I'm going to come back to my browser and I'm going to go to create a new workspace. Let's call this one Demo MLVs and click on Apply. So this is going to provision the workspace, and we can go to create a new item. So first, I want to create a lake house, and I'm going to call this one sales underscore LH. And it is important we toggle on this lake house schemas, which is currently in public preview. And this is going to allow us to manage our materialized lake view. So it is important this is enabled, otherwise we're not going to be able to move forward. So I'm going to tick this box and click on create. And in a matter of seconds, the lake house is now provisioned. Now we want to create subfolder and upload all the CSV files and inspect the content of the data in the lakehouse file store. So I'm going to come to these files and I want to create a subfolder. Let's call this one sales files, and I'm going to click on create, and this is now created. I'm going to click on that and I can right click and use the upload files functionality, and I'm going to browse through the location of the files on my local drive so I can see them. So I just press Ctrl A to select, and I can press enter or click on open and it's going to provision all those files. And I'm going to click on upload to upload into the subfolder of that file store. Now I can see all the 4 files, and let's inspect the fact cells. So I just click on that and I can see the file view. I can turn this to a table view, and this is better. And if I want to see the header, I'm going to click on this and first row as header. And this is cool. So we've seen how we can upload all the files. Now I want to go ahead and create our Fabric notebook to perform data processing and switch to Spark SQL language. I'm going to quickly create that by coming to this open notebook. There's an option to create a new notebook. So I'm going to give that a click and I can see the notebook ready. I can choose to give this a name. I'm going to call this a notebook for MLVs and I'm going to press enter. Awesome. And we want to create bronze, silver, and gold layers schemas following the Medallion architecture because we're going to be storing all our files from the file store into the bronze schema so that we can maintain them as it is. So I'm going to come to the cell. Now, before I do that, you observe that the default language for notebook is PySpark and the Materialized Lake View support for now the Spark SQL. So I'm going to, for now, switch from the default PySpark to Spark SQL. Of course, I'm going to use the PySpark in a moment, but I'm going to show you and tell you the reason why. So I can come to the cell, I can get rid of all of this, and then I can write my create schema if not exist. And I'm going to call this one the bronze, and I'm going to put in a semicolon, copy that, Ctrl V twice, and I'm going to call this one silver, and this is going to be the aggregate, business aggregate gold layer. So once I'm done, I can press Ctrl Enter to run the cell, and this is going to start the session. And in about 5 minutes or thereabouts, the session should be fully ready, and then we can run the content of the cell. While that's going on, we're going to go ahead and read each of the files and write to the bronze schema as delta tables. So I'm going to click on this code cell, and I can double click to expand the content of the lakehouse, and I can see the file store. I can click on that, I can see the subfolder I created, and when I double click, I can see all the 4 CSV files. So let me just give this a markdown. Let me call this one bronze layer and press Ctrl Enter. And I'm going to come here. So I'm going to quickly just declare a variable, or let's just put in the content. Let's start with reading of all the files, that is this fact cells, into our delta table. Now, in this case, I'm not going to use Spark SQL. I'm going to use the PySpark to read and write into the bronze schema. So I'm going to switch from Spark SQL, and I can say the option to go to the PySpark. Alternatively, I can use the %% Python, and this is going to automatically switch. There we go. And let's just create a comment. Let's read the F sales files into the bronze schema that we're going to create. So first, I'm going to declare df underscore, let's call this one F sales, and equals, I'm going to use the spark dot read dot, I can specify the format, and my data format is CSV. So inside double quote, I'm going to type in CSV, and I can use the option, and I want to include the headers because my data contain headers. So inside double quote, I'm going to type in header, comma, inside double quote, true, and I'm going to use the load method to load the ABFS path for each of the files. In this case, we are dealing with the fact cells. So inside double quote, I'm going to come to this fact cells. I'm going to right click, copy the ABFS path, and I'm going to come inside this double quote and Control V to paste. You observe that we have the fact underscore sales.csv as the file because we are reading each of the files. So I'm going to press enter, and then I can reuse this df underscore f sales, and I'm going to use the write dot, and I can specify the mode inside double quotes. I'm going to overwrite if it exists, So overwrite, and I can use the save as table method, and I'm going to save by providing the three namespace, which include the name of the lake house dot, the name of the bronze, and the name of the table. So I'm going to type in sales underscore LH, which is the name of the lake house we can see at the top here. And I'm going to type in dot, and then for the name of the schema, I'm going to type in the bronze. Wow, that's going on, dot. And I want to give this a name, the table name. Let's just call this one fact underscore sales. So this is going to be how we can read this file. So I'm going to quickly copy this, and I'm going to repeat the same thing for the customers, product, region. So let's do it together. I'm going to call this one product, and let me just rename this, call this one sales, and I'm going to double click, and let's call this one df underscore product. I can copy that, I can paste, and I'm going to call this one d dot product, or let me just call this one d underscore products as the table name. And of course, I'm not going to forget changing the fact sales to dim product. So I'm going to double click dim underscore products, not products. So I'm going to copy this, and let's just give more space, Control V, and let's undo the customers. Again, I'm going to change the variable df underscore customer. Let's copy this. I'm going to come here, Control V to paste, and let's call this one d underscore customers. And I'm going to scroll to the right, double click dim underscore customers. Oh, sorry, customer, not customers. So I'm going to copy that, and finally we can move to the region. So let's change this name. I'm going to call this one region, and for the variable df underscore region, I can double click to copy, and I'm going to paste, and let's call this one d underscore regions, just to maintain the consistency across all the tables. And I'm going to call this one dim underscore region, consistent with the name of the file. So I can scroll to the right, to the left, and I can see basically how we can read all the files. Now, the Spark session is actually not fully kicked off, so I'm going to wait. And that's going to be the bronze layer. So at this stage, we are not performing any transformation other than just to include the headers. So I'm going to move to the cell below. Let's create a markdown, and let's call this one Silva layer. And once I'm done, I'm going to press Control Enter to commit, and let's create a new cell at the bottom. So at this stage, we're going to be cleaning the data by using the Spark SQL. So in this case, I'm using the Spark SQL, not the PySpark. And I'm not going to do much of cleaning. Basically, I just want to convert the columns from the files into the integer and data, so on and so forth. So for that, I'm going to use this code for the fact sales. In this code, I'm just creating or replace a table, and I'm providing the fully qualified name, that is the name of the lake house dot silver dot the f sales. This is going to be the table name, this is going to be the schema name, and we're using the r select. So basically, I'm selecting all the columns from the bronze schema of the fact sales table of the sales LH Lakehouse. So I'm using the cast function to convert the sales, order date, customer ID, and so on and so forth from the default string, which is peculiar to CSV files, to integer, and so on and so forth. And very importantly, I'm using the toDate function to transform the date into this specific date format. So I'm going to be using the dd /mm /YYYY, and then we have the same thing for the rest of the columns. So I can say the session is now ready, and I'm going to scroll to the top, and I can see this executed. Now I'm going to come here quickly, and I'm going to refresh, and I can expand the tables, and I can see the bronze, gold, and the silver schemas. Excellent. Now I'm going to come to the bottom and I can give this a control enter to run the cell. And this is going to read first and then write into the bronze schema respectively. So once that is successfully executed without any errors, then we can proceed to running this data cleaning of the fact sales table executed in 40 seconds and no errors. So that's cool. Now I'm going to come here and I'm going to right click on the bronze schema and click on the refresh. And when I expand the chevron, bam, we can see all the four tables. And this triangle icon around this table icon tells you this is a delta table, not a materialized lake view. Come to the bottom and I can go on and run this. So there's an error. Let's see and solve the error. Okay, the bronze schema of the fact sales. Okay, I can see the name. So I'm actually using the fact sales instead of F sales. So I can just modify this, Control Shift L, and I'm going to call this one fact underscore sales. And that should correspond with what I've got in it. I'm going to press Control Enter to rerun that cell, and this should be working fine. All right, so this succeeded in 57 seconds. And I'm going to quickly come to this schema, right, refresh, and I can see the table when I expand fact sales. So I'm going to quickly speed the rest of the process up by pasting all the code for the customer, product, region, and execute, and then we continue this video. So I've pasted the codes for the customers, products, and regions, and I can see all of them executed. So I'm going to come back to this Silva schema, right click, refresh, and there we go. We have all the four tables: customers, fact sales, products, and the region. We're going to proceed to create the materialized lake views by bringing all the columns in each of the Silva schema tables. We're going to include a constraint to drop records from the columns across the entire data that violates the constraint that we're going to specify. And then we're going to write the clean data into a Silva layer that we're going to create the gold table on top. So for that, I'm going to use this code. At the top, we can see I've got this create materialized lake view if not exists, and I'm going to provide the three namespace that include the name of the lakehouse dot, the name of the schema that is Silva dot, the name of the materialized lake view, which is going to be cleaned fact sales. And the beautiful part is that we can include the constraints as I've talked about. We can see I've got this four constraints that cut across some of the files. For instance, I've got this sales quantity check. So in this case, I'm checking the content of the quantity column if it's not null. So if this is violated, that is, if any null value is present in this quantity column of the fact sales, then what's going to happen is the content is going to be dropped. So hence we have this on mismatch, drop. The same thing as when this is violated, drop those rows. And I've got this checking of the channel column. Now I'm going to quickly come back here. So this is the channel. I'm going to press Control down arrow key. I've got some blank. Can you see? That's actually consistent with this constraint. So if the channel column is not null, on mismatch, drop those rows. And then we have the same thing for the promo code, similar to what I've just talked about here. I've got some blanks cells, and then I've got this customer email address. So I'm checking if the email address column contains null. On violation of this constraint, those rows should be dropped. And that's the beautiful part of the materialized lake view in Lakehouse. Now, this can only be done in the MLV, not in the standard Delta table. And then I'm using the R select, and then I'm selecting all the columns from the tables, excluding the primary key columns from this table. So for instance, I'm going to expand this fact sales. So when I scroll down to the bottom a little bit, I can see I'm bringing the sale ID, and then I'm bringing the order date, customer ID, product ID, and these are the foreign key columns. And I'm actually bringing in the quantity column, discount, region, and the channel and the promo code from this fact sale. So I'm actually using the F to alias the fact sales table. You can see I'm performing a little bit of calculation here. So I'm multiplying the quantity by the price. So these are from different tables. So I've got F dot quantity multiplied by P dot price, and this is aliased as revenue. And then we have columns from the customers, the first name, last name, email, VIP, and the join date. And then we have the columns from the product table, product name, price, category, in stock, and then the two columns from the region table, region name, the country. And when you scroll down to the bottom, I'm just performing from this table that is the name of the schema, in this case Silva, and then the name of the table, facts, and the alias is F. And I'm performing a left join, joining that with the customers table, and then I'm actually binding using the on keyword, and this is F dot customer ID equals to C dot customer ID. So the same thing applies to the product table, and this is where the rows are joined across the facts and the dimension table. And then we have the region table and joining the facts with the region ID dimension table. So I'm going to go ahead and press Ctrl Enter to execute this create materialized lake view. This successfully executed. Now, the beautiful part of this MLV is that we have this table that shows the metric name and the metric value. So these are similar to metadata. So I'm going to expand this a little bit, and I can see the metric name column. So we have the namespace that include the name of the lake house dot the name of the schema, that is Silva, and you can see the name of the MLV, and this is cleaned fact sales, and this is the MLV ID, and this is unique to each of the materialized lake views we create in the notebook. And then we can see the refresh policy as full refresh. We have the refresh date and the refresh timestamp, the message. Now, the message is actually really important. We have the metrics successfully collected, and then we have the total rows processed, which is 50,000 rows. And when I come to the fact table, you probably see that I've got 50,000 of records. And when I come back here, I can see the total rows dropped based on the constraints, the four constraints we included, and this is 37,065, and the total violation is 38,539. Now, of course, you're not going to be dropping this kind of data in a production environment, but just to demonstrate how we can include the constraints and how we can see the impact of the constraints we are including in order to ensure that our data is of high quality. And when I come to the last one, we have the violations per constraint. So when I expand this, I can see the constraint. So a total of 44 rows was dropped for the sales QT check constraint, and then we see a total of 36,533 was dropped for the promo code check, and a total of 991 was dropped for the sales channel check, and then the customer email check. A total of 971 rows was dropped. Absolutely awesome. Now, at this stage, we can go ahead and check our lineage view, and this is the interesting part of this whole materialized lake view for me. So I'm going to come to this tab so I can maintain this, and I can say the name of, okay, I'm going to come back here and search for the demo MLV. Okay, let me just refresh. I'm going to go to the workspaces, and I can see the demo MLV. Click on that, and I can see the lake house. Click on that. And again, I can check all the tables. I can see the silver delta tables, including the materialized lake view. Now, this is going to change to a turbo sign because this is not a table, it's a materialized lake view. And I can see all the delta table for the bronze. Now, let's go to the manage materialized lake views, which is currently in preview. And we're going to just wait for a couple of moments, and bam, there we go. We have all the fact tables, and the interesting part is that we can see these are delta tables, not materialized lake views, and then we can see the silver dot clean fact sales materialized lake view Absolutely cool. Now, there's some couple of things you can do, which is quite interesting for me on this side. For example, I can click on this to zoom out, and then I can just zoom zoom in and I can zoom out. And I love this reset zoom. Now, this actually help you to maintain the focus of all the tables if you're probably zoomed in or zoomed out. And when you come to this final one, the switch mode, I mean, this depends for me. It's so cool. Boom. It's going to horizontally change the layout of the lineage, which is really awesome. And I can move this. I can just move to this reset. Let me just zoom a little bit. Okay, cool. And the stuff allows you to drag this. So you can see you can move the lineage, you can position as you like, you can play around. Now we can see the upstreams job, we can see the silver, fact sales, customers, products, and the region. Now, when I click on this line, this is going to actually show this dotted dancing line. So I can see that to generate or to achieve this MLV for this cleaned fact sales, we have some data coming from the fact sales of the silver schema of. I can click on this part. When I click on this, everything turns to this purple color, which is my favorite color anyway. And you can see the impact of the tables that gave us this cleaned fact sales. Absolutely awesome. Now, I'm going to come back to the notebook. Now, before we do anything, again, let's quickly just query and check the contents of some of our tables, particularly this MLV. So to query, I can just copy the name of the schema and the name of the MLV. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and I can create a new cell. Now I can query this by using the same select star from, and I'm going to paste, and I'm going to press Ctrl Enter and wait for some couple of moments, and we're going to have all the data. Absolutely awesome. So we can see the sale ID, the order date, customer ID, product ID, quantity, discount, region, and when I scroll to the right, you can see the revenue that we calculated. That should be around. All right, so this is the revenue column. Excellent. Now we want to go ahead and create our business level aggregate in the gold layer and inspect the lineage again. So I'm going to use this code to just create 5 or 4 different business aggregates in our gold layers. I'm going to create a new cell. In this case, I'm going to use the create materialized lake view. If not exists, and I'm actually going to be storing this category sales summary, which is the name of the view, into the gold schema of the sales underscore LH Lakehouse. And again, we have to use the ask keyword select, and I'm picking this category column, and then I want to extract the year from the order date, and this is alias as year, and I'm summing the revenue, and I can see the from, including the name, the group by, and the order by. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom a little bit. I can press, now before I press Ctrl Enter, you observe that I'm actually picking this table from the cleaned fact sales. So it's really important you understand how it works. I'm going to refresh this, and then I want to make sure that you understand. So we are picking that from the cleaned fact sales, all right? And as I've mentioned, we can see this little bit of a turbo sign in black, and this tells you that this is not a standard delta table, but a materialized lake view in Lakehouse. So from this clean facts sales, I'm going to press Ctrl Enter to run, and let's create 3 more. All right, so I can see this gold layer category sales summary executed. Let me quickly just collapse this, and let's just manage the screen. I'm going to just close this a little bit, and this is going to, of course, create the metric name and the metric value table. And of course, we're not going to see any total rows processed or total rows dropped or total violation, because all of these are taken care of once and for all in the silver materialized lake view. So we just have a clean data in this environment. So I'm going to come here, and I can see I've got this revenue by customers in each region, and I'm performing the select, and this is a subquery, and this also executed. And when I go to the bottom, you can also use the maybe CTE if you like. So in this case, I'm using the CTE by computing the monthly sales growth rate by channel. So this actually works fine, no problems. And of course, this executed successfully. And then we have this customer lifetime value estimation. And of course, this succeeded. So I'm going to quickly collapse this, and I'm going to right click the gold and refresh that gold schema. And when I expand, bam, we have the four materialized lake view in the gold schema. Excellent. Now we're going to come back, and the beautiful part is that we just need to click on refresh. And as soon as I click on refresh, amazing, we have new transformation. So I can see I've got this clean fact sales. I can see the category sales summary. I can see the customer lifetime value. I can see the sales growth. I can see the revenue by customers. So these are the materialized lake view in the gold layer of our medallion architecture. And then we have this in the silver layer. And of course, we have the standard delta tables for the facts, customers, products, and the region. Now, this is not going to show the bronze layer of our Medallion architecture, no problems. So I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. And again, I can click on this point, and it's going to show the movement, or, all the upstreams and the downstream that gave us the final solution. That is, now if I want to check the data quality of this, I can click on this data quality, and this is going to ask me to generate a Power BI report. So when I click on that, I'm going to wait for some couple of moments, and unfortunately for now, this is going to return errors. So I'm not sure why this is return error, but I want to believe Microsoft are going to solve this problem as soon as possible, and we should be able to see the data quality reports in the entire process, so that I can be sure that our data is ready to be used for insights and give us accurate numbers, figures to make decisive, strategic business decisions. So in this case, I'm going to wait, and we see how this pans out. Now, this is going to create the Power BI report, and of course, this is going to create the semantic model similar to when we publish Power BI reports from Power BI desktop to the Power BI service. We have the semantic model which is published automatically. So this is what I'm talking about. I can see the MLV data quality, and I can see the overview. Now I should be able to see the data quality, but when I click on the see details, this is really not useful as I expect. So I want to believe this is going to be worked on by Microsoft, and once this is ready, we can do things such as either you want to download, you want to embed. We can also export to Excel, to PowerPoint, to PDF. We can also share with other people. Maybe you want to share with your manager or whatsoever need or have interest in this. So that's how we can do all of that. Now, there's a button here that allows me to go back to the lake house. So you don't have to click back on this workspace and then be struggling all the way around. So once that is sorted, I'm going to come back to the Manage Materialized Lake View. Cool. Now, I'm going to schedule the MLV in the same view, and I can see the option to schedule. Now, I'm going to turn this on. It's going to be off by default. I can do daily, by minute, hourly, weekly, monthly. Let's do by minutes, and I'm going to do every 2 minutes. And let's start now, and let's terminate maybe tomorrow. I'm going to delete the whole thing after the end of this video. And once I'm happy with the time zone, I'm going to click on apply, and this is now scheduled. So while that's going on, I can go ahead and build my Power BI report, because the end point of all of this is to leverage the information to create report insights and make some strategic business decision. So for that, I'm going to come to this. Now I'm done with this part for today. So I can quickly go back, and I want to go to the semantic model. You have to go to the semantic model of the Lakehouse in order to be able to create a Power BI report. So I can see the reporting tab at the top right hand corner, and then I can see the option to create a new report. So we can do some couple of things. We have the model view, you can join them together, play around. Or let's quickly do that anyway. I'm going to quickly come to the model layouts, and I can see each of the views and the tables. And let's just do let's just go ahead and create the Power BI report. Click on this new report, and I can click on manage default Power BI semantic model, and this is going to allow me to choose from a table. So I just want to focus on the gold. So let's say we want to see the category sales by summary and the customer lifetime monthly sales. We want to create a different pages of report for them. So I'm going to select all the four views and then click on confirm, and it's going to automatically launch the Power BI, and then we can start generating our insight. So this is ready on the right hand side. And say the data in the data view. Let's expand. Let's say I want to see the category by total revenue. So I'm going to drag, and there we go. This creates this table for me. I can turn this to maybe a clustered bar chart if I choose. Engage as you like. And let's say I want to see the total revenue as a scalar value. I'm going to turn this to a card, and this is 2 million. And let's say I want to come and create for the customer lifetime. I can do first name, I can do last name, I can do lifetime revenue generated from each of these customers so that we can prioritize, the big spenders, and we can do all sorts of things. So this is now created. I'm going to press Ctrl S to save, and let's call this one MLV reports, and I'm going to click on save, and that is saved. Now I'm going to come back to my lineage. Now I'm going to click on this to just refresh, and we should have at least seen some refresh that has concluded and some that are in progress. So there we go. Now I'm going to click on this, and then you can see this is currently in progress. So this has been done rather anyway. So I just click on that, and then you have this nice view. So you can see at the bottom we have all activities. We have the activity name, the status as not started. So these are not started, actually not started. And then we can see the time once they start and they succeed or failed. You see all of them. You can come to this completed. You can see all the activity that completed, all the one that failed, all those in progress, and all the one that skipped. So I'm going to quickly collapse this. You can also filter anyway. And oops, let me collapse. All right. And let me just drag that a little bit. Of course, if you are new to all of this can be quite difficult or probably new to you. But with some time, you get a good angle then. So you can see this is not started, and I love this little bit of color around the left hand sides. Awesome. Now let's see the one that are done. I'm going to click on this, and yeah, let's click on this. So when I click on this, I can see this Materialized Lake View details, and I can see this is not started. I'm just going to wait for some couple of more moments. Let me just refresh, and once any of the processes completed, we're going to see a different kind of color. All right, so this is in progress. Now I'm just going to wait for some couple of moments, and we should be able to see how they completely look like. So basically, they're going to look like this anyway because of time. So you can see, so I've got this green around here, green around here. So that's what you're going to see. So that's the end of this amazing video on Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse Materialized Lake Views. I trust you enjoyed this video. If you do, please like, comment, share, and very importantly, subscribe to this channel because it doesn't hurt you. Thank you, and bye for now. Cheers.